Okay, I'm going to do some close-ups now of some of the shards that I cut off of the styrofoam plate. And you can see that this has a lot of texture and nuances of color. And you no longer can tell that this is styrofoam. So, you can imagine what this is going to be, the possibilities that you can use this for. So, that's one example. Okay, what I did as the next step is I put resin over my surfaces to harden them. So what I have now is I've layered the paper bag, 3 paper bag sheets, which creates a thickness, and I put resin over each of the surfaces for the earrings, and now I'm going to let this dry for a full day. I'm not going to touch it. It's actually on a flat surface so that it's level, and this will not create a dome. This is not the type of resin that creates a dome, but there will be a thickness to the pieces and a very glass-like surface. If you can see the little bit of a glare, there's going to be more of a glass-like effect. So these will be hardened and ready to cut, and use my Dremel probably to work with the edges a little bit. Because it'll be hard, I'll be smoothing out the edges with the Dremel tool. It's not necessary for you to do this, but it's something that I do. And so I'll be coming back in a little bit, probably tomorrow, later on tomorrow in the afternoon. This will be set and hardened and ready to touch. But don't touch it until then, because number one, you don't want to touch it while it's setting, because it's very sticky and it'll leave marks and fingerprints and all kinds of stuff on your surface. It'll be really ruined. So I'll leave it just the way it is and come back in about a day. I also want to show you that this is an area of my studio that I use for doing my melting and my resin and anything that which needs ventilation, because what I can do is open this door and I can just let the air come in so that I have ventilation in the room. So if you're working with resin, if you're working with the melting with your heat gun or melting or anything that you need ventilation, it's a good idea to have ventilation when you're working, or do it outside. Wearing a mask helps, but it's good to be safe. Okay, so make sure that you do that when you're working with something that may be toxic, just for safety. Okay, so again, I am leaving. I have a class, so I will come back tomorrow. Thanks. Bye bye. Okay, so what I want to show you now is the next step of after this resin has set and no longer is sticky. You'll feel it's like glass. You'll feel just kind of a glass-like. You won't feel any stickiness at all. So that means that it's set. You're ready to either peel it off the wax paper, which you can do, and then if you have any resin that's kind of spilled over, you can cut it off. Or if you put it on your layers of paper bag, then you just simply cut around it and leave the paper bag on it, because that's what you're going to use as your back. So it's a different kind of effect. But basically the whole idea is you now have made your earring piece or your pendant piece. Now, of course, your earring piece needs to be two exactly alike, you know, that make sure you have two exactly like. But if you're going to do a pendant, then you can do, you know, just use the one, and then finish that with some beads, and well, that'll be our next step on this. This is basically coming into making the jewelry out of your collage material. Now, I'm not saying that this is actually the surface of your, you know, the true surface. We'll be doing that also. But this is another way of doing your jewelry from the surface you created by using a print of it. Okay, so I'll be back to show you the rest of this later on. I have a couple of classes today, so I'll be making another video. Let's see. Well, actually, I'll be probably sending out the first one that I made yesterday, and then I'll be sending this one out sometime next week. But along with that, I will send instructions on how to do this as a printout. So, and you have any questions, of course, I've actually posted my email address. You can actually call me if you want to at 910-528-7283 at my studio, or you can email me and ask your question at any point. Okay? Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, I wanted to show you the pieces that I cut off of the styrofoam plate. Once it was totally dry, I peeled off the thing that I'd created on the styrofoam. I peeled it off, and then I cut various shapes from the styrofoam piece, large styrofoam piece. And I actually cut it into shapes of which now I can use for jewelry pieces. Some of the smaller ones I could put a jump ring, like a jump ring in here, and I could actually make these into a collection of flat beads and make a necklace. There's different things that you can do with these pieces. You know, if you don't want to use them for jewelry, you can just use them for collage pieces that you use in other, you know, collage projects, embellishments. But you can cut them into the shapes that you want. And then I have over here, I have the pieces that were left over, I've cut into smaller pieces that can be used as mosaics. You can use this to decorate an area. You know, you can cut them into some really small pieces and use them in that way. I've actually used them this way, and when you use a heat gun on the pieces, they change forms, so they kind of look like stones when you do that in the transformation. So this is another thing that you can do with your smaller pieces. So do not throw any of the thing that you created with your styrofoam piece away, because you can use it for various different projects. Okay, so this is, I'm not sure if this is going to be the last video or not. So I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say I will see you later. Bye-bye.